Today I'm going to present you the second part of my research methodology video. So stay tuned with high chats and also don't forget to subscribe my channel and also click on the bell notification below. So let's move to the topic. Sampling. Sampling is a technique used in statistical analysis for selecting a representative part of a population for the purpose of determining the characteristics of the whole population. Why representative sample? Actually, sample should be is truly representative of the population. Then sample can be generalized back to the population of interest. And it is impossible to study the whole population due to reduced cost, reduced field time, increased accuracy, and enhanced methods. What is the sampling process? First, we should understand what is the population, then the sampling frame. At last, we should select the best sample. What is the population? All people or items with the characteristics that one wish to study is called the population. There are two types of populations. First one is finite population and second one is infinite population. What is the sampling frame? Sampling frame is the accessible section of the target population from where a sample can be drawn. It includes accurate information that can be used to contact select individuals. Using a suitable sampling technique is very important. We should consider about sampling method, sampling size, and sampling plan when choosing a correct sample. There are many sampling techniques. There are probability sampling, non-probability sampling, and also in probability sampling, there are a lot of methods. They are simple random, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, match pair sampling, and also multi-stage sampling is also in probability sampling. The second one is non-probability sampling. There are four methods in non-probability sampling. They are convenience sampling, quarter sampling, expert sampling, and snowball sampling. If we consider probability sampling and non-probability sampling, in probability sampling, all the members of the population has an equal chance to be a part of the sample. But in non-probability sampling, all the members of population has no equal chance to be a part of the sample. In probability sampling, it is based on randomization principle. But in non-probability sampling, it is based on subjective judgment of the researcher. In probability sampling, it helps to reduce the possibility of bias. In non-probability sampling, it results in more or less bias. The result obtained can be generalized from the surveyed sample to the target population in probability sampling. But in non-probability sampling, the result obtained cannot be generalized from the surveyed sample to the target population. In probability sampling, the chances of selection are fixed and known, but in non-probability sampling, the chances of selection is zero and not known. First, we move to the simple random sampling. Actually, simple random sampling is applicable when population is small, homogeneous, and readily available. All subsets of frame are given an equal probability. If sample frame is large, this method is impracticable. It estimates and it is easy to calculate. Methods of selecting random samples are lottery method, table of random numbers likewise. In systematic sampling, sampling frame is ordered according to some criteria. Elements are selected randomly at start and at regular intervals through that ordered list. Sample is easy to select, evenly spread over entire reference population. It is difficult to assess precision of estimate from one survey at systematic sampling. In stratified sampling, sampling frame divided into homogeneous and non-overlapping subgroups. They are called strata. Stratified sampling, subsamples are randomly selected from each strata, and the procedure of drawing simple random samples from each stratum called as stratified random sampling. In cluster sampling, the population divided into subgroups as clusters. Select random sample from each clusters and we can estimate characters of both clusters and populations. The cost to reach an element sample is very high in cluster sampling, and in cluster sampling more error compared to simple random sampling. What is match pair sampling? Actually, match pair sampling is used to compare two subgroups within one population. Ideal way of understanding bipolar differences between different subgroups within a given population. In multi-stage sampling, it is carried out in stage. It is use smaller sampling unit for each stage. It is more accurate and effective. Each stage introduces an error. In non-probability sampling, first we will talk about convenience sampling. Actually, convenience sampling involves choosing respondent at the convenience of the researcher. It is very low cost and the variability can't measured or controlled in convenience sampling. It is used for exploratory research. For the sampling, the population is segmented into mutually exclusive subgroups. Non-random set of observations chosen from each subgroups, and this quarter sampling is very easy to do and it is a very cheap method. In expert sampling, have a panel of experts make a judgment about the representativeness of sample. It is more familiar with the subject matter than non-experts, but expert sampling is time-consuming process. In last method, in snowball sampling, one person recommend another person who recommend another person. Good way to identify hard to reach populations. In snowball sampling, it is used for exploratory purpose. So, what is statistic? Actually, statistic is the information obtained from the sample about the parameter. What response? Actually, response is the measurement that value provided by a sample unit. Also, we call response as observation. A distribution graph or a table shows each possible outcome and the frequency that we observed of that outcome. In frequency distribution, the response will give you different responses to different items in an instrument. Responses from different respondents to the same item or observation can be graphed into a frequency distribution based on their frequency of occurrences. In normal distribution, this frequency distribution is bell-shaped curve and it is used to estimate overall characteristics of the entire sample. These sample estimates are called sample statistics. Sample statistics is the estimated from observed data. Population parameters cannot be estimated from observed data, but sample statistics can be estimated from observed data. What is sampling error? Actually, sampling error refers to differences between the sample statistics and the population parameters. Sampling error increase the sampling size and it will reduce this type of error. So increasing the sample size is the best method to reduce sampling error. What is confidential interval? Actually, confidential interval gives us estimated range of values which is likely to include an unknown population parameter. Confidence interval is the estimated range being calculated from a given set of sample data. Most common confidence interval used are 68%, 95%, and 99%. Experiment research. One or more independent variables are manipulated by the researcher. The subjects are randomly assigned to different treatment levels then. At last, the results of the treatments or outcomes are observed. Laboratory experiments and field experiments can be categorized into experimental research. What is internal validity? It is the unique strength of experimental research. Due to its ability to link cause and effect through treatment manipulation while controlling for the spurious effect of extraneous variables. In laboratory experiments, it is conducted in a lab, so it is an artificial setting. It is tend to be high in internal validity, low external validity in laboratory experiments. And the artificial laboratory setting in which the study is conducted may not reflect the real world. What is a field experiment? Actually, field experiment conduct in field setting, such as in real organization. It is high in internal validity and it is also high in external validity. So, relatively, field experiments are rare because the difficulties associated with manipulating treatment and controlling for extraneous effect in field setting is combined with this. And also, experimental research can be grouped into two broad categories. There are true experimental designs and quasi experimental design. First, we should understand what is treatment and the control groups. Some subjects are administered one or more experimental stimulus and it is called a treatment or a treatment group. And also the other subjects are not given such a stimulus. That is the control group. What is the treatment manipulation? Treatments are the unique feature of experimental research that set this design apart from all other research methods. Treatment manipulation helps to control the cause in cause effect relationship. Naturally, the validity of experimental research depends on how well the treatment was manipulated. Treatment manipulation must be checked using pre-test and pilot test prior to the experimental study. Preset measures are conducted before the treatment, and post-test measures are the measurements which are conducted after the treatment. Random selection and assignment should be there. The process of randomly drawing a sample from a population or a sampling frame, and this approach is typically employed in survey research. So, the random selection and assignment is typically employed in survey research. and it assures that each unit in the population has a positive chance of being selected into the sample. Actually, random assignment is a process of randomly assigning subjects to experimental or control groups. A standard practice in true experimental research is to ensure that treatment groups are similar or equivalent to each other and to the control group. Prior to treatment administration, the random selection is related to sampling and is therefore more closely related to the external validity of findings. Random assignment is related to design and is therefore most related to internal validity. What are the threats to internal validity? Although experimental designs are considered more rigorous than others, research methods in terms of the internal validity of their inferences, they are not immune to internal validity threats. History, maturation, testing, instrumentation, mortality, and also regression are the threats to internal validity. History threat is the possibility that the observed effects, dependent variables, are caused by extraneous or historical events rather than by the experimental treatment. Maturation threat is the possibility that observed effects are caused by natural maturation of subjects rather than the experimental treatment. Test and treat means in pre-post design where subjects' post-test responses are conditioned by their pre-test responses and not conducting a pre-test can help avoid this threat. Instrumentation threat is the possibility that the difference between pre-test and post-test scores due to change in the administered test, such as the post-test having a higher or lower degree of difficulty than the pre-test. Mortality threat is the possibility that subject may be dropping out of the study at differential rates between the treatment and control groups due to a systemic reason. And regression threat is the statistical tendency of a group's overall performance on a measure during a past test to regress toward the mean of that measure rather than in the anticipated direction. Two-group experimental design is the simplest true experimental design. It involves one treatment group and one control group. Ideally, two-group experimental design suited for testing the effects of a single independent variable that can be manipulated as a treatment. The two basic two-group designs are pre-test post-test control group design and post-test only control group design, and also covariance design. Pre-test post-test control group design are subjects are randomly assigned to treatment and control groups subjected to an initial measurement, means pre-test, of the dependent variable of interest. The treatment group is administered a treatment representing the independent variable of interest and the dependent variable measured again. It is called post-test. In post-test only control group design, it is a simpler version of the pre-test post-test design where pre-test measurements are omitted. The treatment effect is measured simply as the difference in the post-test scores between the two groups. Covariance design or concomitant variable design is a special type of Pretest fastest control group design, where the pretest measure is essentially a measurement of the covariates of interest rather than that of the dependent variables. Because the pretest measure is not a measurement of the dependent variable but rather covariate, the treatment effect is measured as the difference in the fastest cost between the treatment and control group. What is factorial design? It enables the researcher to examine not only the individual effect of each treatment on the dependent variable, which is called main effect, but also the joint effect called interaction effects. The most basic factorial design is a 2 into 2 factorial design, which consists of two treatments, each with two levels. Each independent variable in this design is called a factor, and each subdivision of a factor is called a level. There is a hybrid experimental design. It formed by combining features of more established designs. Three such hybrid designs are randomized block design, Solomon four-group design, switch replication design likewise. Randomized block design is the variation of the fastest only or pretest fastest control group design where the subject population can be grouped into relatively homogeneous subgroups, which is called blocks, within which the experiment is replicated. Purpose of this design is to reduce the noise or variance in data that may be attributable to difference between the blocks so that the actual effect of interest can be detected more accurately. Solomon four-group design is the sample is divided into two treatment groups and two control groups. In Solomon four-group design, one treatment group and one control group receive the pre-test and the other two groups do not. Represent a combination of fastest only and fastest control group design, and Solomon four-group design intend to test for the potential biasing effect of pretest measurement on past-test measures that tends to occur in pretest past-test designs but not in the past-test only design. Switch replication design is a two-group design implemented in two pairs with three waves of measurement. The treatment group in the first phase serves as the control group in the second phase, and the control group in the first phase becomes the treatment group in the second phase. The original design in repeated or replicated temporarily with treatment or control rows switch between the two groups. By the end of the study, all participants will have received the treatment either during the first or the second phase. Quasi-experimental design almost identical to true experimental designs but lacking one key ingredient: random assignment. Inferior to true experimental design in interval validity due to the presence of a variety of selection-related traits. In quasi-experimental design, many true experimental designs can be converted to quasi-experimental design by omitting random assignment. And also in regression discontinuity design or in RD design, a non-equivalent pretest positive design where subjects are assigned to treatment or control group based on a cutoff score on a pre-programmed measure. Proxy pretest design looks very similar to the standard NEGD pretest post-test design with one critical difference. The pretest score is collected after treatment is administered. A typical application of this design is when a researcher is brought in to test the efficiency of a program after the program has already started and pretest data is not available. Proxy pretest design is a variation of the proxy pretest design is to use subjects' post-test recollection of pretest data, which may be subject to recall bias but nevertheless may provide a measure of perceived gain or change in the dependent variable. Perils and perils of experimental research requires theories for framing hypotheses for testing. Much of current experimental research in and also many of these measurements instruments used in experimental research are not tested for reliability and validity and are incomparable across studies. Many experimental research use inappropriate research designs such as irrelevant dependent variables, no interaction effects, no experimental controls, and non-equivalent stimulus across treatment groups. The tasks used in experimental research may be diverse, incomparable, and inconsistent across studies and sometimes inappropriate for the subject population. Now we will talk about case research, also we call case study. Case study is a process or record of research into the development of a particular person, group, or situation over a period of time. This method is more popular in business research than in other social science disciplines. There is a multiple method of data collection in case study. There may be interviews, observations, pre-recorded documents, and secondary data. Case research can be employed in positivist manner for the purpose of theory testing and in interpretive manner for theory building. What are the characteristics of case study? Mostly, case study is descriptive, which is highly detailed. It may be narrow focus. Narrow focus means a single entity studied. Triangulation is there, which use triangulation of tools and methods. It combines objective and subjective data, like objective plus recording plus feelings, beliefs likewise. And also, a case study is a process oriented one. It means different from experimental method, and also there are a lot of strengths and weaknesses in a case study. What are the strengths of a case study? Case study can be used for either theory building or a theory testing. The research questions can be modified during the research project, and it is highly ecological, and also the ecological validity is there. It is rich in depth real retail, takes advantage of non-replicable situation, and also another strength is it can be studied from the perspectives of multiple participants and used in multiple levels of analysis. What are the weaknesses of case study? Actually, it involves no experimental control. Internal validity of interferences remain weak and also time consuming. Some ethical considerations are there. The another weakness is it may be costly. Case research is a difficult research method that requires advanced research skills on the part of the researcher, therefore often prone to error. Case description. Actually, what is case description? Typically, it describes an organizational problem in rich detail with goal of stimulating discussion. Also, case description is analyzing how well an organization handle a specific problem. What is a case research? It is a formal research technique that involves a scientific method to derive explanation of organizational phenomena. What are the problems frequently encountered in case research? First one is it studies start without specific research questions. Second one is case sites are often chosen based on access and convenience rather than based on fit questions. Researchers often do not validate or triangulate data collected using multiple means. The fourth one is Less reliability due to very little details on data collection. The fifth one is many case studies do not follow through a phenomena in a longitudinal manner. What are the key decisions in case study? The first one is research method. Second one is appropriate unit of the analysis of the case study. Third decision is selecting suitable case design. The fourth one, what side should be chosen. And the fifth and last one is techniques of data collection. What is research method? Case research method is particularly appropriate for exploratory studies, for discovering relevant construct in areas where theory building at the formative stage. Studies aimed at understanding complex temporary processes rather than factors or causes. In research method, it is well suited for studying complex organizational processes like organizational change, large scale technology implementation projects likewise. Second decision, when selecting appropriate unit of the analysis of the case study, case research can simultaneously examine multiple units of analysis. Researcher must decide the level that he wishes to study. As an example, individual, group, organizational level, multiple levels likewise. Multiple level of analysis to derive richer understanding than that can be achieved from a single level of analysis. In the third decision, we should select suitable case design. There are two types of case designs. First one is single case design and the second one is multiple case design. Case design is more appropriate at the outset of theory generation. This design is used if the situation is unique or extreme, if it is revelatory, if it represents a critical or contemporary case, likewise. In multiple case design, more appropriate for theory testing. It establishes generalizability of inferences. The fourth decision is what side should be chosen. The site selection is a particularly critical issue because selecting the wrong site may be lead to the wrong inferences. If the goal of the research is to test theories or examine generalizability of inferences, then dissimilar case sites should be selected to increase variance in observation. In fifth decision, techniques of data collection should be considered. Interview is the most popular data collection technique for case research. Interview the data can be supplemented with other techniques such as direct observation, documentation, archival records, physical artifacts likewise. When conducting a positivist case research, we should consider 9 states. The first one is define research question. Second, select case sites. Third, create instruments and protocols. Fourth, select respondents. Fifth, start data collection. Sixth one, conduct within case data analysis. And the seventh one is conduct cross case analysis. Eighth one is build and test hypothesis. And ninth or the last one is write case research report. First we should define research question. Research question and constructs change in interpretive case research. Then we should select case site. Theoretical sampling based on theoretical grounds. In third, we should create instruments and protocols. A properly designed protocol follows strictly the order of the question in interviews. No skips but situational deviations in order are allowed. Fourth, we should select respondents. They must be selected based on personal involvement with the phenomena. And in the fifth stage, we should start data collection, electronically recording interviews likewise. And at the sixth stage, conduct within case data analysis should be carried out. It follow or overlap with data collection. At the seventh stage, we should conduct cross-case analysis. Multi-site case research requires cross-case analysis as the second stage of data analysis. And at the eighth stage, we should build and test hypotheses based on emergent concepts and themes. At last, ninth stage, we should write case research report. It should be clear and detailed. So, case research can be categorized into two groups. The first one is interpretive case research, and the second one, positivist case research. What is interpretive case research? Research paradigm that is based on the assumption. As an example, study of how executives make decisions in high velocity environment. In interpretive case research, we can take lot of examples. So, Eisenhower examined how executive teams is some HVE firms make fast decisions, whether faster decisions improve or worsen firm performance in such environments. What is high velocity environment? Demand, competition, technology change so rapidly and discontinuously that the information available is often inaccurate, unavailable, or obsolete. The assumptions are hard to make fast decisions with inadequate information, and the second assumption, fast decision may not be efficient and may result in poor firm performance. What is the method to use to collect information? There are five methods. First, initial interviews with chief executive officers, then interviews with divisional heads. The third, questionnaire. Fourth, secondary data. And the fifth method used to collect information is the personal observations. Actually, there are decision making patterns. In high velocity environments, use more information, examined more alternatives, did not centralize decision making or restrict inputs from others, did not have conflicts, exhibited superior firm performance by virtue of their built in cognitive, emotional, and political processes that led to rapid closure of major decisions. Positivist case research is a case research which can also be used in a positivist manner to test theories or hypotheses. Such studies are involved in our education. So, markup study of technological implementation at Golden Triangle Company. The problem is newly introduced financial information system was not successful. It was restricted by divisional accountant and supported by corporate accountants. Posited three alternative explanations. First one is system determined theory. Second, people determined theory. The third, interaction theory. There are four requirements of scientific theories. Actually, theories should be falsifiable. They should be logically consistent. The theory should have adequate predictive ability and they should provide better explanation than rival theory. So, next we will move into interpretive research. What is interpretive research? It focuses on identifying, documenting, and knowing through interpretation of worldviews, values, meanings, beliefs, thoughts, and the general characteristics of life events, situations, ceremonies, and specific phenomena under investigation. Methods used in interpretive research are ethnographic, classic traditional interviews, case studies, focus groups, and action research. Now we will compare interpretive research and positivist research. Actually, interpretive research is using qualitative data, and positivist research uses quantitative data. Interpretive research have a subjective meaning, and in positivist research it has objectivity meaning. In interpretive research, holistic and contextual analysis is there, focus on language and science. In positivist research, statistical techniques used in analysis. In interpretive research, research object is interpreted in light of meaning structure of person's lived experience. And in positive research, research objective has inherent qualities that exist independently of the researcher. What are the challenges? Contextualized nature of inferences lead to poor reliability and generalizability. It requires well-trained researchers. Unequal data sources lead to misleading or false impression, more time and resource intensive. And sometimes it is fair to answer the research questions or it predict future behavior. Advantages are it was suited for exploring hidden reasons behind complex, interrelated, multi-phase, and social processes. It helps to theory construction in areas with no and insufficient prior theory. For studying context-specific, unique, or idiosyncratic events, and also uncover interesting and relevant research questions and issues for follow-up research are the advantages. What are the characteristics? Actually, temporal nature, use of expressive language, interpretive analysis, research as instrument, neutralistic inquiry are the characteristics. And also in interpretive data collection technique, there are interviews, observations, documentations. So in interviews, we can use face-to-face, telephone, focus groups, and in observation, we can use direct and participant. So in documentation, we can use external and internal documentation. So what are the interpretive research designs? Case research, action research, ethnography are the three interpretive research designs. What is a case research? We, Actually, case research is an intensive longitudinal study of phenomena at one or more research sites. Actually, it is unique research design. Case research used in an interpretive manner to build theories or in a positivist manner to test theories. Case researcher is neutral observer. In action research, qualitative but positivist research design aimed at theory testing rather than building. Simultaneous problem solving and insight generation is the central features of action research, and researcher is passive observer. So, actually, participatory action cycle is there. So, we should diagnose, action plan, action take, evaluate, learn. Likewise, it is a cycle. So, we call it a participatory action cycle. In diagnosing, we identify and define a problem in its social context. In action planning, identify and evaluating alternative solution to the problem and deciding a future course of action. In action taking, we implement the planned course of action. In evaluating, we examine the extent to which the initiated action is successful in resolving the original problem. In learning, We experience and feedback from action evaluation used to generate insights and suggest future modifications. What is research ethnography? Actually, it derived largely from field of anthropology, emphasizes studying a phenomena. It is the systematic study of people and culture, designed to explore cultural phenomena where the researcher observes society from the point of view of the subject of the study. What are the features of ethnographic research? Actually, ethnographic research involves investigation of very few cases. It emphasizes on exploring social phenomena rather than testing hypotheses. The researcher gathers what is available, what is normal, what is that people do, what they say likewise, and also how they work. And in phenomenology, it is the philosophical study of the structure of experience and consciousness. It is a method of interpretive research. And also, Edmund Husserl introduced this phenomenology theory in 20th century, and it is a systematic analysis of conscious experience of a people. And the examples are judgment, perceptions, feelings, and behaviors. So, what are the goals of phenomenology? Appreciating and describing social reality from the diverse subjective perspectives of the participants involved and understand the meanings, deep structures underlying these subjective experiences in phenomenology. So, positivist research and interpretive research have some differences. What is positivist research? It simplifies social reality into simple theories and laws using reductionist approach. In interpretive research, it attempts to interpret the social reality through the respective participation. Rigor of interpretive research are exactness or precision, comparatively less rigorous because it is subjective and sensitive to the participants and researchers. Notions of rigor used in positivist research can be applied to an interpretive research. As an example, reliability, generalizability, and alternative set of criteria for rigor have to be considered. What are the criteria to judge the rigor of interpretive research? Actually, it is provided by Lincoln and Guba, and phenomenology can be based on four criteria. They are dependability, creditability, conformability, transferability likewise. So, next we should move into a new topic. We are talking about research methodology, and now already we have learned a lot of things. So, now we should move into the qualitative analysis. What is qualitative analysis? Qualitative analysis is the analysis of qualitative data such as text data from interview transcript, focus group, narratives of audio video recording, and also secondary documents. And qualitative analysis is heavily dependent on the researcher's analytical, integrative skills and personal knowledge of the social context. It aims sense making or understanding a phenomena rather than predicting or explaining. This presentation we are going to provide a brief overview of qualitative analysis strategies. So, what is grounded theory? Grounded theory involves the collection and analysis of data. The theory is grounded in or based on actual data. That means the analysis and development of theories happen after you have collected the data. It was introduced by Glasser and Strauss in 1967 to legitimize qualitative research. However, its use isn't limited to qualitative studies. Research stops when you have research theoretical saturation. The point where you have sampled and analyzed your data until you have exhausted all theories and uncovered all data. So, grounded theory commonly use following data collection methods: interview participants with open-ended questions, participant observation and or focus groups, study of taxes. The general theory can be broken down into two parts. They are methods and products. Grounded theory has following aspects in common: coding, labeling, and categorizing from collected data, discovering social process in the data. And third one is abstract categories are constructed inductively, and categories are refined using theoretical sampling. The gap between coding and writing is bridged with analytical memos. Categories are integrated into theoretical frame. Three coding techniques are there. They are open coding, axial coding, and selective coding. And open coding is the read through data several times, creating summaries for the data using preliminary labels. The researcher examines the raw textual data line by line to the identified discrete events, incidents, ideas, actions, perceptions, and interactions of relevance that are coded as concepts. In accelerating coding, it is the breaking down of core themes during qualitative data analysis. It is the process of relating coding to each other via a combination of inductive and deductive thinking. In selective coding, it means to seize open coding and to delimit coding to only those variables that relate to the core variable in sufficiently significant ways as to produce as parsimonious theory. Selective coding begins only after the analyst is sure that he or she has discovered the core variable. We should analyze content. It is a systematic analysis of the content of a text. Selective sampling of the population. Unitizing or division of text into segments or chunks. Then we should code. In coding, we should construct and apply one or more concepts to each utilized text segment. At analysis, we should analyze coded data, often both qualitative and in quantitative manner. In sentiment analysis, it is a simple type of content analysis. Capture people's opinion or attitude toward an object, person, phenomena. And criticism is there, lack of systematic procedures. Solution is we should organize different content analysis procedure into a spiral model. What are the limitations? Actually, coding process is restricted to the information available in text form. Sampling must be done carefully to avoid sampling bias. Actually, hermeneutic analysis is there, which study of interpretation and the theory and practice of interpretation. And we interpret the subjective meaning of a given text within its socio-historic context, and also in assumptions. Written text narrate an author's experience within a socio-historic context, should be interpreted as such within the context. So standard software programs can be used to automate coding processes. They can quickly and efficiently organize, search, sort, and process data. A coding schema should be created to guide that, and it cannot decipher the meaning behind the certain words or phrases or the context significant misinterpretation. In quantitative analysis, there are two methods for analyze numerical data. They are descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. In descriptive analysis, it is a summary statistic that quantitatively describes features of a collection of information, describing, aggregating, and presenting the construct of interest or association between these constructs. We should prepare data. Before use data, it must be converted into a machine readable or numeric format. In data preparation, usually follow these steps. They are data entry, missing values, data coding, and data transformation. Data coding is the converting process of data into numeric format and also the data entry is the entry of the data into a software program or Excel for storing purpose. And we should check the accuracy frequently and we should find out what are the bad data and we should exclude those. Missing values are unavoidable part of any empirical data sets. In software programs, we use various techniques during data analysis. In imputation, we allow option of replacing missing value. In listwise deletion, simply drop entire observation. In data transformation, we convert data from one format to another format. Reverse coded items, creating scale measures by adding individual scale items, creating a weighted index from a set of observed data, and collapsing multiple values into fewer categories. So, if we consider descriptive analysis, there are univariate and bivariate analysis. So, in univariate analysis, it refers to set of statistical techniques that can be described the general properties of one variable. Univariate statistical techniques are frequency distribution, central tendency, dispersion likewise. In frequency distribution, the frequency distribution summarizes the frequency or percentage of individual values or range of values for a particular variable. For instance, we can measure how many times simply a sample of respondents attend rigorously and using categorical scale we can do this. In central tendency, it is an estimate of the center of a distribution of values. Major estimates of central tendency are mean, median, and mode. Mean median is the middle value within a range of values in a distribution. Mod is the most frequent occur value in a distribution of values. Any value that is estimated from a sample such as mean, median, mode or any of the later estimates are called statistic. Dispersion refers to the way values are spread around the central tendency. Common measures of dispersion are range and standard deviation. Range is the difference between the highest and the lowest value in a distribution. Standard deviation corrects outliers effect in distribution by using a formula that takes into account how close or how far each value from the distribution mean. And if we consider two types of correlation, they are positive correlation which has a upward sloping line and the second one is negative correlation which has a downward sloping line. Quantitative analysis is a situation or event, especially a financial market by means of complex mathematical and statistical modeling. As an example, cost benefit analysis, the break even analysis, the statistical analysis, and the feasibility study. There are two ways of analyzing numerical data in a research. They are descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. Numerical data collected in a research project can be analyzed quantitatively using statistical tools in different ways. In descriptive statistics, we use data to provide descriptions of the population by numerical calculations, graphs, or tables. In inferential statistics, we make inferences and predictions about a population based on a sample of data taken from the population. Inferential analysis is a use to draw conclusion about a population by examining the sample. They differ from descriptive statistics in that they are designed to test hypotheses and deriving estimates. What are the steps in inferential statistics? We state hypothesis first, then level of significance, then compute calculated value, obtain critical value, and at last we reject or fail null hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a statement about what findings are expected. We will consider about significant level. A statistically significant result in a hypothesis test is achieved when the p-value is less than the defined level of significance. The p-value is the level of marginal significance within a statistical hypothesis test representing the probability of the occurrence of a given event. Next, we should compute calculated value. Here we should use statistical tests to derive some calculated value. Then we should obtain critical value. A criteria used based on DF and alpha level 0.05, 0.01 is compared to the calculated value to determine if findings are significant. Then we should reject or accept hypothesis, which is null. Calculated value is compared to the critical value to determine if the difference is significant enough to reject null hypothesis at the predetermined level of significance. If critical value is higher than calculated value, then we can't reject null hypothesis. If critical value is less than calculated value, then we can reject null hypothesis. General linear model is a useful framework for comparing how several variables affect different continuous variables. The simplest type of general linear model is a two-variable linear model that examines the relationship between one independent variable and one dependent variable. In regression analysis, a linear model can have more than two predictors. Line that describe the relationship between two or more variables is called a regression line. Process of estimating regression coefficient is called regression analysis. We learn about dummy variables, categorical variables, indicator variables, qualitative variables. So quantify these attributes with the artificial variables. These artificial variables take the value of 0 or 1. 0 indicate the absence of the attribute and 1 indicate the presence of the attribute. What is an ANOVA? When comparing the effects of the two levels 0 and 1 of this dummy variable on the outcome variable, we are doing an analysis of variance, while controlling effect of two levels 0 and 1 of dummy variables on outcome variables. In inferential statistical techniques, there are two group comparison, factorial design, other quantitative analysis. So, in two-group comparison, a common form of scientific experimentation is doing, and comparison could be of two different treatments. The comparison of a treatment to a control or before and after comparison. So, students will consider about research ethics. Ethics is a diverse set of values, norms, and institutional regulations that help constitute and regulate scientific activities. What is a scientific research? Proposing hypotheses as explanations of phenomena and designing experimental studies to test these hypotheses via predictions which can be derived by them. What is the importance of research ethics? It is important to promote aims of research, to ensure that researchers can be held accountable to the public, to advance their private agenda, to avoid activities that against to the norms of scientific conduct, and to build public support for research. What are the ethical principles? Voluntary participation and harmlessness, anonymity and confidentiality, disclosure, and analysis and reporting are the ethical principles. In voluntary participation and harmlessness, must be fully informed about the procedure and risks involved in research, must give their consent to participants. The freedom to withdraw from the study at any time without any unfavorable consequences is there. There are no harm as a result of their participation or not and participation in the project. In anonymity, the researcher or reader of the final research report or paper cannot identify a given response with a specific respondent. Example mail survey, undesirable behavior such as drug use or illegal downloading. The importance of anonymity is to protect privacy and to improve cooperation. If we consider confidentiality, the researcher can identify a person's responses but promises not to divulge that person's identify in any report, paper, or public forum. It is a weaker form of protection than anonymity. As an example, for confidentiality, questionnaires cross-examine respondents regarding answers that given to interviewers can be considered. The importance of confidentiality is to protect the privacy of all persons, to build a rapport with study participants, and to maintain ethical standards and to integrate research process. In disclosure, researcher has obligation to provide some information about the study before data collection to help them decide whether or not they wish to participate in the study. Below information are provided here. They are who is conducting the study, who will benefit from the result, for what purpose, and what outcomes are expected likewise. In some cases, such information may potentially bias subject to responses. The purpose is to sensitize subjects to the treatment before the experiment. In analysis and reporting, researchers also have ethical obligations to the scientific community on how data is analyzed and reported in their study. Unexpected or negative findings should be fully disclosed. Hypotheses should not be designed to positivist research after the fact based on the results of data analysis. Unethical to carve their data into different segments to prove or disprove their hypothesis of interest. There is an institutional review body or institutional review board which is called IRB. Actually, IRB reviews all research proposals involving human subjects to ensure that the principles of voluntary participation, harmlessness, anonymity, confidentiality, and the risk posed to human subjects are minimal. The process is completing a structured application providing complete information of your research project, researchers, principal investigators, details on how the subject's right will be protected. Researchers need to provide certification of their participation in an research ethic course, and data collection can commence only after the project is cleared by IRB review committee. Most professional associations of researchers have established and published formal codes of conduct describing what constitutes acceptable and unacceptable professional behavior of their member researchers. As an example, Association of Information System and in category 1 serious transgressions is there. Plagiarism and falsification of data, research procedure and data analysis is considering, and it may lead to expulsion from the association, dismissal from employment, legal action, and fatal damage to professional reputation likewise. In category 2, less serious transgression is there, like not respecting the right of research subject, misrepresenting the originality of research projects, using data published by other without acknowledge, which may lead to damage of professional reputation from journals likewise, and ethical controversies there, dilemmas without easy answers, and dilemmas which each side have valid arguments. As example, lot of case study like trade study, obedience study, prison experiment are there in ethical controversy. We will consider how to write thesis and dissertation proposals. Actually, your proposal describes your proposed plan to work, what you intend to study, scope and research questions, how you intend to study your topic. It is the methodology. Why this topic needs to be studied. It is the significance. When you will complete this work. It is timeline. And occasionally, where you will conduct this work. What is the purpose to write thesis or dissertation proposal? To justify and plan a research project and to show how your project contribute to existing research. Demonstrate that you understand how to conduct discipline specific research in an acceptable time frame. What is the audience? Your academic advisor and committee are your audience. What are the parts of a proposal? Title, abstract, introduction or background, problem statement, purpose, aim, rationally, research questions, review of literature, methodology, significance, overview of chapters, plan of work, and bibliography are the parts of a proposal. Then you should make a good title. Orient your readers to your research topic by using a good title. Indicate the type of study you will conduct. So next you should use a good abstract. Provide a brief 100 to 350 word overview of the proposal and summarize important elements like introduction, statement of the problem, background of the study, research questions or hypothesis, and methods and procedure. Likewise, you should summarize all the things in your abstract, and then you should use a good introduction or a background. In introduction, establish the general territory, real world or research, and describe the broad foundations of your study. Provide sufficient background for readers. Indicate the general scope of your project. Provide an overview of the sections that will appear in your proposal and engage the readers. Then you should use the statement of the problem or the problem statement. Answer the question, what is the gap that need to be filled? Or what is the problem that needed to be solved? State the problem clearly early in paragraph. Limit the variables you address and state in your problem or question. Consider framing the problem as a question. Then you should use a purpose, aim, rationally, or research question. Explain the goal and research objectives of the study. Show the original contributions of your study. Provide a more detailed account of the points summarized in the introduction. Include a rationale for the study. Be clear about what your study will not address. And in addition, this section may include describe the research questions or hypothesis of the study, include a subsection defining important terms, state limitations of the research, provide a rationale for the particular subject of the study. In literature review or in rhetorical functions, Situate the current study within a wider disciplinary conversation. Illustrate the uniqueness, importance of a need for a particular project, and justify methodological choices. Demonstrate familiarity with the topic and appropriate approach to study it. An effective literature review should flesh out the background of your study, critically assess important research trends or areas of interest, should identify potential gaps in knowledge, and should establish a need to current and future research projects. Tips on drafting a literature review. Categorize the literature into recognizable topic clusters. Stake out the various portions that are relevant to your project. Build on conclusions that lead to your project or demonstrate the places where the literature is lacking. Avoid including all the studies on the subject and avoid praise and blame. You are entering a scholarly conversation already in progress. And also, why should we study? And what contribution will my study make? Likewise, you should include the important things in your literature review. In the methodology, introduce the overall methodological approach and indicate how the approach fits the overall research design. Describe the specific methods of data collection and explain how you intended to analyze and interpret your results, like statistical analysis, theoretical framework, and if necessary, provide background and rationale for unfamiliar methodologies and address potential limitations. When drafting your methodology, break down your methodology into subsections. In the physical sciences, these sections may include subjects, design, apparatus, instrumentation, process, analysis, etc. And in the social sciences, this section may include selection of participants, interview process, profile, interpretive and analytical framework, method. Likewise, and in the humanities, this section may include scholarly research, achiever research, theoretical orientation, likewise. Remember that your method section may also require support in literature. Anticipate and preempt the audience methodological concerns and acknowledge major problems. Justify your approach by showing how benefit outweigh potential problems, and also you should use a good methodology and you should try your best for this. What are the significance and implications? Discuss the methodological, substantive, and theoretical contribution. State the practical and theoretical importance of the problem and objectives of your study. Explain the usefulness or benefit of the study to both the outside world and the research community. So there should be an overview of chapter. Some proposals include a sentence length description of each chapter. Chapter 2 reviews relevant literature. Chapter 3 discusses the methodology. So other proposals include more in-depth reviews of body chapters that might include major hypotheses, arguments, methods for each chapters. So you should have a good timeline or plan for your work. Some things to keep in your mind here. Consult your advisor. Be aware of important dates for submitting and defending dissertations. Do not overly ambitious. And remember that your proposed timeline demonstrates your awareness of the various elements of the study. Your IRB approval, travel, design, testing, and length of experiments, negotiation of entry into the study site, purchase of necessary equipment, drafting, redrafting, likewise. There should be a bibliography or appendix. Include a working bibliography of key texts that inform your study and methodology. Your appendices may include experiment diagrams, permission for human subject testing. Both bibliographies and required appendices tend to be Discipline specific, know what the requirements are likewise. So more proposal nuts and bolts. Length varies by field. Most are roughly 20 pages, but they can be much longer in length. And the style considerations is tone, coherence, and your voice and your visual aids. Considering your style or tone, convey your attitude in your writing. Try to strike a consistently confident tone. Avoid an apologetic or arrogant tone. Your field may prefer using passive voice, especially in describing research design and experimental activities. You need to preserve coherence from sentence to sentence. Use visual aids, incorporate charts, graphs, diagrams, illustrations, where possible, permissible, or practical, and enter in the academic conversation. Creating a research space is very important. First, establish a territory. Show centrality. Review previous research. Then create a niche. Indicate a gap or extend previous knowledge. Occupy the niche and outline purposes, list research questions or hypotheses, announce principal findings, state value of research, and preview the structure. Actually, referencing is also a very important thing. What should be referenced? Ideas, information, results, or opinions from any source that you have summarized, paraphrased, or directly quoted, and definitions of terms, illustrations, tables, figures drawn from sources, your ideas that are also those of an author you have read, plans, ideas, or anything that was stimulated by others, so they should be referenced. Respect the creation of ideas by others. Concept of intellectual property. Acknowledge the ideas of others but don't reference common knowledge. What is a common knowledge? As general rules of thumb, if you didn't know it before you read the research, then it is not common knowledge and you need to reference it. If most classmates would know it, then it probably is common knowledge. Which of the following are common knowledge? The first fleet arrived in Australia in 1788. Yes, for someone who grew up in Australia, it is a common knowledge. Women who enroll in postgraduate studies are at greater risk than men of late completion. Probably not. Yeah, then we should reference it. How does one reference accurately? Many conventions vary university, country, even school and subject area. We should have the guidance from faculty, school, or subject guides, software such as RefWorks and Notes, library homepage, website devoted to referencing, articles you read. Acknowledge within the text. Acknowledge closely as possible to the point. Include all sources referred to in a list at the end of your essay. This list is usually called a reference list, sometimes called list of works consulted or bibliography. Include all details about the sources in your list. When naming the list, works consulted or referred to, works on topic but not necessarily construct, and need both. And the acknowledging sources is called citing or referencing. A citation or reference in the text is where you refer to an author. It may be in the form of a direct quote or a summary or paraphrase of an author. Whenever referencing to an author, explain his her position and your comment on it. And also, what are the omissions from quotations? Leaving out words in a quote. Use three dots within a space at the end. What are the additions to quotations? Inside the quote, Use scare bracket. This shows your comment explanation, show your accuracy of transcription but an error in the original. Use of italics indicate your emphasis of word. And also use quotations within a quotation. Use of single quote mark inside the existing quote. When summarizing paraphrasing, start with your own word, not the text. Explain only the main ideas. Reduce it is so that it is shorter than the original text. Helpful when describing different authors' views on a topic. Providing research evidence to support your writing. Always acknowledge the original source. So that's very important. So author and date, number in which links to footnotes or endnotes, number in which links to the reference list are the basic referencing system in the text. So, referencing newspapers, articles, organization, corporations should be done also. Treat the organization like an author. In text references to website, use author and publication date or latest update. Unknown author. Treat organization as author and also organization unknown. Use title of the web page as author. Site not dated. Use for no date. In reference list include date to assess the site as well as author. Date, title of website and the URL should be there. Using footnote, in the text there will be a number text to the reference. At the bottom or the foot of the page there will be the same number, name of the author, date, details about the publication, sometimes a comment by the author. Footnote system lists sources used at the end of the work. Academic writing needs references in the text and also references in a list at the end of your work. And also names of the authors, names of the journal articles, chapter or conference paper, and also name of the journal books, conference, and also date of publication, volume number for journals, editor of books if applicable, publisher for books, place of publications for books, page number of article or book chapter are necessary information when compiling the reference list. So alphabetical sources appear alphabetically according to the family name of the first author. This is the most common system. It is the basic referencing system in a reference list, and also numerical sources are listed and numerical by other order of their first citation in the text. Likewise, there are many methods in referencing. So, I have talked with you a lot of things about referencing now. So, as a final word, know which system is required. When recording ideas from reading, record all the bibliographic data. Always take note of the page number. Distinguish between information from the source and your own thinking. Be consistent. Follow the rules implicitly. Don't question why the system wants a colon and not a comma. Just do it. Check referencing before submitting. So, I have talked a lot of important things in my video, and I hope this video was very important for you. So comment your ideas below and like my video, subscribe my channel and stay tuned with High Checks. See you soon. Bye bye. Thank you for watching my video.